Alright everyone, welcome back to the video. Today I'm going to be doing a whole Valorant Agents tier list, including Deadlock, before Champions. I'm not sure if Deadlock is going to be played at Champions yet. I would assume she will be, or at least she'll be available. I haven't gotten to test her too much yet, personally, but I'm just going to be going off, like, stuff I've seen online, like, other people playing her, and, like, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm just going to go through every agent, kind of tell you what I think about them, and put them into a tier list here. Just all the normal SA, B, C, D. I'm not gonna do any like changing like the tier names or anything like that. Not that any of you care about that really. And yeah, leave a like, subscribe if you enjoy. Yeah, let's get right into it. And we'll start off with D tier. And the agent that I think is the worst in the game right now is actually going to be Yoru, who I don't think he's this bad. Like, I don't think he's that bad. Like, he is a decent agent, all things considered, but you just have to spend so much time making him at all viable that it's just not worth playing him ever. And this is a tier list just for pro play, not really for ranked. So that's why he is the worst agent here. And then above him, I'm going to put Deadlock. And second to last, I would predict that Deadlock will be worse than Yoru, but it's really close. I mean, some people have said like her ult is really good, which it's decent. Like I don't think her ult is amazing, but that's the only good part about her kit. Like the wall is completely useless in my opinion. The trips are useless on the attack side and okay on the defense side. She's not like a real sentinel. Like you'd have to play her in a double sentinel comp, which her util's just not good enough to warrant it. Like I've seen people on Twitter talking about like how she hasn't been played at all yet, so you just have to wait and see. But like, and like use Harbor as the example. Like everybody was like, "Oh, Harbor's so bad," and then he was actually decent. But the thing is, Harbor, everyone was like, "Oh, his abilities are good. It's just not worth it to play him in place of like a another initiator or whatever," which ended up being wrong, and people figured out ways to use those agents and everything, like the Sky, the Harbor, and the like Viper all at the same time. Like found out the Sky was kind of a good solo initiator still. Um, and I just don't think Deadlock's abilities are good. Like just straight up. Um, I already talked about the two abilities, and then the crouch grenade. That just seems pointless. Like I don't know. It like makes you crouch, and that's it. Like it's a worse fade seas, it's a worse sage slow, whatever you wanna call it. It's just not good, and that's why I have her in D tier. And then I have Reyna above her, who the only reason she's not last, she's gotten some playtime recently with not just Paper Rex, with something playing her, but EG played her in the finals against Fnatic, and it didn't look terrible. Like you get some value out of like the healing and the dismissing, like especially the dismiss. This is a really good ability as long as you can get the kill. Um, but I don't know. I just think flashes are really good, and that's about it. You still don't get a ton of value. Like it's really only on Bind that she's played, and it's only by players that are gonna go crazy. Like you're not playing her in place of your like initiator player if you're 100 Thieves and you're taking Derek off an initiator to play at players. It's just not worth it, even though Derek is actually very good at Reyna when he plays it in ranked. So I don't know. I just don't. I think you got to argue for Reyna to be better than the last place agent in the game, and that's why I'm kind of speaking positive about her. And then Phoenix in D tier. Um, he has a home map on Pearl where he's very viable. Paper Rex has been playing him recently. Cloud9 played him back in like Lock In and early in Americas. I think he should be meta on Pearl after some of maybe the Viper nerfs or whatever. I think most teams should be playing him, honestly. I think the wall is very valuable on that map. The flashes are a really good ability on most maps. His ult is insane. Uh, and then his molly's a molly. Like it's not anything crazy, and he can heal himself and everything like that. So he's not a terrible agent, and that's why he's at the top of D tier. But you're not really getting any value out of him on maps other than Pearl. All right, and then on to C tier now, where we're going to start with Cypher at the bottom. Uh, this is going to be a theme for this tier, but it's a lot of agents with a lot of baseline value on every map, but they don't really have like a home map that they're really good on. Um, like Cypher, you get baseline value for him across every map. Like he's decent on Lotus, Ascent, Bind. Um, what other maps are there in the pool? I mean, he used to get played on Pearl a decent amount before the Harbor Viper stuff, and kind of like Killjoy getting buffed and everything. Um, what else is there? Split. I mean, he's actually he's like very viable on Split. You can play him instead of the Viper, but obviously that's not ideal. You most of the time rather play the Viper, in my opinion at least. Um, and yeah, I just other than that, like I just don't think Cypher you get a ton of value from. This might actually be overrating him for some people. I think a lot of people would have him in D tier, and I understand that he does still need buffs. Um, and I think he's the only agent outside of D tier that still needs to be buffed. Maybe outside of Neon. Um, but yeah, I think he's a little bit better than some people realize, but he's still not very good. And then we have Gecko, um, who, again, similar to Cypher, like you can get value from him on a lot of maps. Haven in particular is one that I like. I like the 100 Thieves comp, and I think Foot runs him on there as well. But it just, a lot of the time on the attack side specifically, makes you go really slow because you try to pick up all the abilities and everything to get them back later in the round. And obviously, that's not ideal. So, like, you want to be able to react to people doing certain things, and that kind of limits you a little bit. But also, the utility is really powerful. Like, the flash is really good. The wingman is good for just the boombot replacement specifically. I don't really love the planting mechanic, if I'm going to be honest, from wingman. Like, it's not the main part of the wingman that I like. And then the Mosh is a really, really good molly. Um, but yeah, he's just a little limiting in the way that you have to play with him, which is why he's down here in C tier. And then I have Sage in C tier, which might be a little bit high. I won't lie. Um, Maybe just ahead at like Swapper and Gecko. But I do really like her on Split. I think most teams should be playing her on Split every single time. Um, and Ascent, I think she's viable. But another agent that you get a lot of value on from every map, but there's definitely better options outside of Split. There's not really a ton to say. Like, I guess Pearl, she's fine. Uh, Running her with like the old Cloud9 Phoenix comp on that map. But other than that, like you don't get a ton of value, and I'm actually gonna move her down because of that. I think you get more value, like baseline value, across every map from Gecko than you do from Sage. Um, but Sage also doesn't limit you in the way you play. It's just it's really close between those two. I'm gonna leave it the way that I originally had it though. And then I have Neon in C tier. Similar deal where she uh, across every map has decent value, but you would most of the time rather play Sage or Sage, Jet or Raze, except for Lotus, which is why she is up here in C tier. Actually, I'm gonna move her to the top. I'll spoil the last pick in C tier, which is Fade. Um, yeah, I mean the fast rotation stuff was really nice with the running on defense, and just being able to react a little bit better with the sprinting is also very nice. The wall is a very good entry piece of utility. The stuns are pretty good. The ult is okay. I mean, it's a free gun for a round pretty much, but it's definitely worse than like the other free gun ults like Chambers ult and Jets ult. And then yeah, Fade in C tier, who has had a fall from grace. I think you could argue that at some points last year she was in S tier. Um, but now that like with Chamber not being played as much and her Prowlers not being as useful for like clearing out those off angles with the Chamber, um, she's kind of fallen out of meta a little bit. Also with some nerfs and everything, you just don't see her played that much outside of like Fnatic's Lotus comp and Just some other things here and there, like on Fracture, some tier 2 teams player. Um, but I don't. I think she might come back a little bit into meta, as I'll talk about a little bit later with Chamber. Uh, now that like you need them to clear that, and then Raze might also come back to into meta with her. I mean, I guess Raze has played a decent amount right now, but she will come back the more that Raze has played because the C's is just so good at comboing with the Raze nade. There's also other pieces of util that combo really well, like Viper's Molly. I mean, just all the mollies. The Breach Aftershock is really good. Gecko Molly, obviously, even though I already said mollies. And even like some stuns are pretty good. Like you could fade seize them and stun them and everything, and it kind of guarantees the stun. But overall, I think the C tier agents are very solid agents, but just ones that you won't see played too often, and that's why they're not in the higher tiers here. And then now into B tier, um, where we'll start with Harbor at the bottom. And I know everybody is talking about Harbor Viper meta and how good it is. But at Tokyo, it started to fall off. I mean, I'd have to go check his pick rate because I don't think it was that high. Um, Obviously, on certain maps like Pearl and everything, it was very good. Yeah, he had a 17% pick rate, and he only had above a 40% pick rate on two maps. Um, so I think you could even argue that he would be lower. I originally had him in C tier the first time I made this list, but then I redid it, and I'm like, he should probably be a little bit higher because I do think he is a very solid agent with all the walls. Like the Cascade, I think is a really good piece of utility on maps like Haven, Pearl, Bind. Bind not as much. I guess the no, yeah, Bind. Yes, Bind. With the like, what's it called? Like long and be long in showers. Those two are really good for those. And I mean, the rest of the maps you don't get too much value from him. Like Fracture, I think you could argue you get some, but there's just significantly better options. Like every other smoke agent is better than him. Um, and yeah, I don't think you could really argue he would be meta on any other map. And that's why he's in the low B tier. You can even argue C tier. But also his ult is very solid, and the co kind of helps the plant and everything. Like his ult was one of the most underrated ults right when it came out, but I think everybody's kind of caught up to how really good it is. And teams have started like farming orbs to the harbor and the plants to the harbor, just to get the ult on as quick as they can. And then next up we have Astra, who I think she's kind of similar to the C tier agents, except she does have a home map or two, you could argue, in Split, and then maybe Pearl with the changes coming back. You could argue she could be even higher uh, now that like you can actually smoke B long with one smoke, and that can really help you with Astra, like just not having to use two stars on one thing. So having two maps would be really good for her. And if she goes, and she might go up this tier list into maybe higher B tier. I wouldn't say A tier even at that point, but she's also really good on Lotus. I think Fracture, she's solid. Bind, you can play her. Haven, you can play her. Pearl, as I said, she's going to be pretty good. And then Ascent, you can also play her, which surprisingly she had a 0% pick rate on at Tokyo. Even though in ranked I play Astra a lot on that map. I think Omen's better, but it's not by a lot. And if teams would rather play the Astra with like a chamber comp, like go back to some of the stuff from 2022, then maybe you could see Astra more in that map. But we'll just have to see with her. And then I have KO, who another agent similar to Fade has kind of had a fall from grace. He had, let's see, like a 19% pick rate, where he was 100% pick rate on Ascent. Home map, he's insane on that map. But like, other than that, he's really not that good on Pearl, even though he's played a decent amount by some EMEA teams. Uh, I think he's okay on Haven, um, but it's not like nobody's gonna pick him on Haven because there's significantly better options. Bind, he's not good. I don't think. I don't know why teams play him there. Split, he's okay. I mean, there's not much more to say other than he's okay. Like, there's not really too many creative spots to use the knife, even though there is a bunch of like unbreakable spots, at least off like rip from the defense side. But like for side execs, the knife isn't very good. The mollies aren't too good. The flashes are okay. I mean, you get the baseline value from every flash pretty much. I think he's really underrated on Fracture, which is why he's this high. And then Lotus, I think he's solid. I just don't think he's amazing. Uh, Obviously, across every map, you get baseline value from him, which is why he's up here. Like, I think if there was any agent, like, you're like, okay, you have to play this agent on every single map, I think he would be my second option behind Sky right now, because Sky is one of the better agents in the game, probably the best initiator right now, just in this meta. Um, but yeah, he just gets a good amount of value on every map and then is insane on the set. And then we have Brimstone, who kind of similar to Astra, has two home maps on Fracture and Bind. Bind, he's kind of falling a little bit more out of the meta. I mean, it looked like he was really falling out going into Tokyo, but he kind of recovered it a little bit at that event with a 69% pick rate. Nice. Uh, but other than that, he is literally not picked on any map. He's just not viable on any map other than those two. So actually, screw it. I'm gonna predict Astra passes him in the next event just because I think Astra's gonna have two home maps. Brim's gonna have two home maps, but then Astra's just gonna be a little bit better on every other map than Brim is. Um, and then I think we have one more agent here in B tier. Yes, we do. I just have a like reference tier list, and it's gonna be Chamber, who is getting buffs in the next patch. I think it's going into LCQ. I could be wrong. Um, but you're gonna be able to like have the trip detect you or stay up from further away, so you can kind of play around it a little bit more. What else? The ult is now faster than the op, which is very very good. And there was one more change that I'm forgetting right now. Oh yeah, the like instant equip after TPing, which I don't think it's gonna be super good, but it is a buff. I just think the trip change is going to make him actually viable on a lot of maps as a solo sentinel now. Like you can play him on Haven and have like the trip in Garage, and then I think you can play on A short with that. And I already thought his TP was still pretty good. Like it wasn't like better than the old TP because the old TP was just like insane, but it allows you to take some to still take some weird off angles and like you can abuse like distance on people and like maybe do it through some walls and everything. Like make it so people can't catch you while you're TPing kind of thing. Um, but yeah, I think Chamber's going to be a lot better in this patch. You will see him on some maps. I mean, you're already starting to see him come back a little bit on Bind, where he had like a decent pick rate on that map. There we go. Yeah, he had a 13% pick rate on Bind. Like teams like Energy played him. Um, EG played him. I think that was it. There might have been one other team, but I don't remember it. So overall, I just think Chamber is a very, very solid agent in this patch, and you should see him replacing Jet, and then therefore you'll see like Raze and Fade start coming back into the meta. Maybe even KO a little bit, maybe Neon as well. We'll just have to wait and see for those agents though. And then now on to A tier, where we're actually getting into like really, really solid agents. And we're going to start with Sova at the bottom of this tier. And we went into this year expecting Sova to be in the S tier, probably, with like all the like Chamber kind of coming out of meta, and then therefore Fade getting nerfs as well as falling out of the meta because Chamber is going away, and then Jet coming back into the meta a little bit more. Just all leans towards Sova uh, being a really high pick rate agent like he was in the past. Um, but he's been kind of replaced by Sky in the Harbor Viper meta specifically. And I mean, he's still a really highly played agent, like 21% pick rate, but he's really only played on three maps. Where he's starting to be like a meta pick on Fracture. I mean, I think he should be picked by most teams on Fracture at this point. Just watching EG, Um, I think you can play him on Lotus and Bind, but you probably shouldn't. And then Haven, he's still very, very good, even though he's kind of falling off a little bit at a 56% pick rate. I still think he's really good in that like normal, just like Jet, Breach, Sova, Killjoy, Omen comp. Um, and then Ascent, obviously, I still think he's better than Fate on that map, even though a few teams play him here or there. Um, but yeah, he's an overall solid agent that has a few really good maps, and I don't know, like he's the best recon initiator in the game out of the two. Uh, he's not the best info initiator though, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Um, but then we have Raze in A tier, the second best duelist in the game behind Jet, obviously. Um, yeah, I mean she's really really good on like four maps, yeah, and then even you could play her on some of the maps that you don't see her as often, like Haven, uh, like Lotus, Fracture, Split, and Bind. She all has a 50% or higher pick rate. Bind at 94. I don't know why teams wouldn't pick her on Bind. Just seems kind of stupid. Split kind of makes sense if you want to just play a solo Jet, but you should be playing double duelist on that map. Fracture, I don't know why you're not picking her on that map. Like, what agents are? I mean, I guess Neon instead. Um, that makes a little bit of sense, but like running solo duelist Jet on. No, okay, solo duelist Jet is fine. Now that I think about it, and then Lotus, it's like a 1 out of 3 split between uh, Jet Rays and Neon. At least it should be in my eyes. It just depends on what your duelist is comfortable on. Except Jet is probably a little bit worse than the other three. But all that being said, Rays util just super super oppressive. Like all of her shit does damage. She can play with pace. She can play slow and a default with her boombot. Um, the ult needs to be changed, in my opinion. I just don't like how it just sometimes it'll just like go through people's feet. Like sometimes it'll just be a completely worthless ult. Um, and most of the time you'll be able to get a kill from it if you use it correctly. But sometimes it's just very annoying to use, in my opinion, even though I don't play Raze too much. And then we have Viper in A tier. So if we did this list maybe like at the beginning of the VCT split, like week 2 or 3, I think Viper would be S tier. Just like the sheer amount of Harbor Viper that was played uh, was a lot. And she was really the main reason for that. Her ult is the best ult in the game still, in my opinion. Her general like smoke util is really good for like lurking, um, and just denying a lot of info on the attack side, especially. And then her mollies are really solid. The vulnerable from her mollies is kind of stupid in my opinion. They should. I think they should probably change that if they're looking to nerf Viper. Like get rid of the vulnerable, just make the molly do a little bit more damage, make it more similar to Brim's molly. But yeah, I mean, like the vulnerable from the molly plus the decay damage from all of her util seems a little oppressive. Um, but that's probably how I would nerf her. I mean, you could definitely argue that she should be higher than this, but overall, it's just a really, really good agent on a lot of maps. And then I don't have her as my highest controller. Uh, that's actually Omen for me. He was the second highest pick controller actually, just behind Viper. But the only reason I have him higher is just because you can play him as a solo controller a little bit easier. Like with Viper, you need a Harbor or an Omen or an Astra or a Brim uh, to actually like be able to play her. If you're not playing Icebox or Breeze, which are not in the map pool right now, so I'm not really counting them towards this. And yeah, I think it just really limits what you can do with Viper. In some maps, I guess, like Ascent, Haven. What's the other map? Fracture. Man, I should move her up. Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna swap that actually now. She's a slightly higher pick rate, and she's like really good on a lot of the maps. But Omen still solo controller viable, everything like that. And the maps that he's good on, he is insane on. And then my last tier agent in A tier is Breach. Another agent who has a lot of maps where he's really, really good on. Fracture and Haven specifically. Lotus, you can play him, but he's really not worth playing instead of the Viper on that map, in my opinion, which is why he's not S tier. Split, I think more teams should be playing him. Bind, teams have experimented with him in the past. It was not that great, in my opinion. I don't know why teams kept doing it last year. Pearl, I think he's a little underrated, even though he's probably not worth playing, just because there's better options than him. Um, but yeah, I think he, again, with a lot of these agents, gives a baseline value across every map, which is very, very good in my opinion. And then getting into S tier now, we're gonna start with. I just hit my knee on my PC. We're gonna start with Killjoy, who, again, coming into the like VCT split, Killjoy was S tier, number one agent in the game, or at least going into lock in. The like alt buff back then was really really good. I think they nerfed the health a little bit since then. I'm not 100% sure. Um, but yeah, she's still by far the best sentinel in the game. These top three agents all had a 59% pick rate at Tokyo. I just I think the other two agents are a lot better. Uh, not a lot better. Why did I say that? That was just wrong. Um, the other two agents like don't have certain maps where they're just not able to be played on, like Bind for Killjoy. And yes, she does have a monopoly on her role, which is a really good thing, but I'm not really taking that into account right now. And then in second, I have Sky, who I'll move Jet in here as well. Um, is just the best initiator in the game right now. She has flashes, they give you info. The dog is better than Silva Drone, in my opinion. Uh, and she has an insane heal, which is the best heal in the game. I think she definitely needs some nerfs uh, going into maybe champs or next year. And yeah, I mean, I think everybody that watches VCT knows how good Sky is. Um, Again, kind of similar to Killjoy now that I'm thinking about it, where Ascent she's not really played on, but you can play her on Ascent if you want to. It's just not like the best choice. But yeah, Bind she's insane on. Split she's really good on. Pearl she's really really good on. Lotus I don't know why more teams don't play her on that map. And Fracture I think she's a little underrated as well by her pick rate. So overall, just another really really good agent, but still not as good as Jet, who you could argue maybe outside of Lotus could be meta on every map. On Ascent, she is meta. Pearl, she's meta. Haven, she's meta. 100% is a solo duelist. Bind, you could argue double duelist is the best comp, and I wouldn't fully disagree with you. Even though I do like some of the other comps, like I'm starting to like Chamber a little bit better on that map than Jet Rays. Um, but yeah, she's really really good on that map. I was surprised she only had a 6% pick rate on Bind during that tournament or during Tokyo split. Every team should be playing double duelist on that map. In my opinion, she's just really solid. Fracture, she's very very viable on. I mean, 100 Thieves are in a solo Jet comp. There were teams that ran double duelist comps on that map, like T1. And yeah, she's really really good on that map. And then Lotus, she's also good on if you want to like heavily lean into the op on that map. But if you don't, then I feel like the Neon or the Rays are better. But overall, a very, very solid agent. And yeah, that's it for the tier list. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. A lot of people disliked my list the last time I did this. Um, I don't think there's going to be too many disagreements on what tier some of these agents are in. Maybe outside of like Chamber and Cypher, maybe Deadlock as well. I'm not sure. Uh, I'll have to wait and see. Leave a comment what you guys thought of it in the comments below, obviously, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.